Hi, welcome back to Anyone Can Paint. We're going to be starting a brand new painting today. We always like to get one started, and we always like to finish one, but so now we're at the beginning stages of a new painting. This one's going to be a scene that there's a river that's back into the woods, kind of comes out, there's going to be a really nice sized waterfall, goes right back into a river. There's going to be a lot of trees on the side, some trees in the background, some rocks on the bank, a lot of bushes. You'll get a really good chance to use a lot of different kinds of techniques and strokes. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to use our large flat bristle brush. As always, you got to get it wet first. And we're going to go into the gesso, and we're going to put that up in the sky. We're going to make a really simple sky today because there's just a lot going on in this painting. And not a lot of sky is going to show, so there's no sense spending a great deal of time to it because there's going to be a lot of tree coverage. So put on a good amount of gesso, and we're going to go with a little bit of blue. Start at the top, and then because you've already got that white on there, it automatically is going to start to get lighter as it comes down. And that's exactly what you want today. Just bring that off to the side. Continue to bring this down. It's about there. And if you do some nice, wide, long X strokes, you'll see that that's just the perfect classic way of blending. Some more down here. There. You can see it's just a very simple sky. There's some dark spots of blue, some lighter spots, and that's going to work out just perfect. Okay, now we're going to start building in some trees that kind of come down and all the way around. That's going to be with some blue and some green. Now this is going to be just a very, very light color. So we're going to add a great deal of white to it because these trees are going to represent trees that are just real, real far away. And you'll notice as we're doing this is that because of the sky we just put in is very, very wet, that'll help to calm this color down, but that needs to be a lot calmer. So we'll see what this looks like. Yeah, that's better. And I'm really just using the brush in a vertical way, and I'm just pushing down just to get that little sense of some trees in the distance. And in here, this really doesn't really matter a lot, because a lot of this is going to be covered with some trees. But really what we're looking for is this outside edge, because that part will show here and there. And just bring this color all the way down, almost halfway down. You can see there's a lot of light colors, dark colors. You can see some brush strokes. Again, that underpainting is just so vitally important. If you think of underpainting kind of like the foundation of a painting, because it truly is, that's what holds up the entire painting. And if you compare that to a foundation of a house, again, that's what holds up your house. You really don't notice the foundation a lot, but you know it's there. It's the same way in painting. It's the exact same, the same theory. Again, nice little brush strokes. And again, just get some interesting tops of some trees. A little bit more paint. I'll bring that down. And these two will end up connecting. See, I got a dark spot there because this is still wet. You can just kind of get rid of it. And even if it is a little dark, that's perfectly fine. It just makes for a more interesting background. Need a little bit more paint. Yeah, see how this is. See, that's a little bit darker, but again, that's not a big deal. In fact, what we can do is that if you just want to bring that up, it almost looks like there's another layer of, and I'm just kind of using the corner of the brush and just scrubbing. Kind of looks like there's just another layer of bushes that are in there. You can see how the color that we just did, how that pushes that way, way to the back now. I'll just bring that up a little bit. Again, I'm just scrubbing. I'm not even taking the brush off the canvas. And a little bit over here. Soften up that so it doesn't get that ridge of paint build up on there. And just as easy as that, we've got a really decent looking background going on. Alrighty, and then we can clean that brush. Again, bouncing up and down on the bottom, kind of spread those bristles out to get all the paint out from underneath there. Because if you get dried acrylic paint in your bristle brushes, it's a very, very difficult thing to get out. Sometimes it's darn near impossible. All right, go ahead and reshape that. All right, next thing we're going to do is we're going to use our script liner brush. This is the very first time we've used the liner brush since our show started. And this will be the one that will give you a little bit of fits because you have to load it a certain way for it to work right. So what we're going to do is we're going to get some white and some burnt sienna. This is going to be a light brown color because what we're going to do is put some tree trunks way back in the distance, and because they're further away, you don't want those to be very dark because you lose your sense of depth. So how you do that, you mix up your paint, you get your liner brush really, really wet. And this has got to get this paint really, really creamy. So it's really watery. Then what you do is as you run your brush into this, I'm turning my brush as I'm pulling through. And that's how you load this brush with paint. Then you kind of load it out, it comes out to a fine edge. And we go up here and we're just going to drop these in here and there, just to suggest that there's some trees and things back there. Maybe sometimes you see one sticking out. But it's a really light brush stroke. Kind of here and there. And again, there's going to be some trees and things covering that. So don't get hung up on it. It's got to be just perfect because it really does not. Just a really light brush stroke. And the lighter you do it, the less paint comes off. It makes a very, very fine line, which makes these appear to be further back than the ones we did in the very beginning. Watch, I'll put one next to this and you can kind of sense the distance or the difference between them. Hopefully that shows up. But you can see how that's smaller than that one and lighter in color, which would represent to you is that that's further back. And these just kind of go here and there. You can kind of see some of them. Like I said, most of those are going to get covered up. Then just swish that around the water and you're good to go. All right. As we come forward in the painting, let's use the medium flat bristle brush. What we're going to do now is we're going to put in some more bushes in here. These are going to be a little bit darker. And these are going to be the top of this ridge, and then they kind of come down the bank on this side. So again, get a little wet. This time we're going to use some brown, some green, and a little bit of blue. And a little bit of white to lighten it up a little bit. A little bit more green. There we go. See, this is much greener than that, but see how it pushes that back though? And this is going to get highlighted. So we got to have some dark colors and they're able to show some light. So again, I'm just scrubbing, loose strokes. This is underpainting only. This is not what it's going to finish looking like. And we'll bring it right over to about there. And these are, again, just going to represent bushes. And reload. And we'll bring those all the way across. See how it's just really loose? Just kind of just scrubbing, but look how natural that looks. Again, I'm not in here doing this and trying to make a perfect bush. You just kind of throw them in, because again, there's going to have some highlights on them. But these just look a lot more natural if you just kind of do it with some loose brush strokes. Again, with some green, some blue, a little bit of brown. We'll finish this up over here. And this part here is the ridge is going to kind of go around like this, and this is going to actually be the bank coming down to the water. Again, not getting hung up too much on shoreline and what it looks like. We just want to get it placed. That's what underpainting is all about, is blocking in colors and blocking in shapes. All right? Let's go over here on the other side, do the same thing. It's going to be some brown, burnt sienna brown, and blue with a little bit of green. Just a dark foresty green color. And again, we're going to come through there and reshape this up. So it's just to kind of get things in place for right now. And we'll go back and make some adjustments and maybe move some things around. This is going to represent the opposite side of the bank. Certainly bushes kind of coming down the bank. But these right here are just going to all be bushes. Just going to be just a clump of them. In fact, this is the point where you can just give it some blue, some sienna, and some green, and just kind of triple load just some yucky color and throw right up there. This is a little bit quicker. Plus, I mean, it's the same result. You just want to get some dark color up there and just throw it on. See how I'm not concerned about brush strokes. You can see I got brush strokes going this way and that way. Got them over here. It just doesn't matter. So don't waste any of your time doing that. You see I just picked up some blue, just threw that right in the middle of it too. Just as long as this is a dark color, you're going to be perfectly fine. But you're going to have to trust yourself to do this. And I know it's tough. I mean, I was the same way when I started. It's like, just start throwing strokes in. It's supposed to matter. And it really doesn't. And as soon as you understand that the looser and the more freer that you paint, that the more realistic it looks, the more professional it looks. And you're just going to be a lot happier. And it just doesn't make sense, because you think, well, the less time I put on it, the better it looks. But the more you paint, and you'll notice this with every painting you do, the more that you force yourself to do that, your paintings will jump in consistency and with a more professional, painterly look. There. And really, I'm just kind of getting the color off my brush. Good. All right. Let's go ahead and clean this one out. You know, I should have brought that. Let's go back. My fault. Let's go back and bring those bushes that are on the back side over a little bit further. Let's bring them over to here. I just saw something that I wanted to do. So it's like, all right, it's time to make an adjustment. Just like that. See, this helps push that back also, because this is darker than that. There, just like that. We also need to do that down here in that corner also. Again, with the blue, the sienna, and some green, kind of triple loaded, all balancing on the end of the brush. This is the same thing. This is going to be just some bushes down here. But as soon as you start getting some confidence, just to loosen up and just to throw it in, you'll find that it's a lot more relaxing to paint, because you're going to have a lot more confidence with your result, and you don't get hung up worrying about a lot of little things that just don't matter. But that will come in time. I mean, I can tell you this every single week, and I know as soon as that you turn off the television set and you try to go paint that you're going to be in there doing this, because that's what everyone does. So it's perfectly normal. But just if you can have in the back of your mind, you hear me going, loosen up, just throw it in, it doesn't matter, then you'll be a lot further ahead. And all of my students do that same thing, it's a perfectly normal, natural thing to do. But after a while, they start realizing that, hey, I can loosen up a little bit. All right, now we're going to clean that brush. That one got a workout. All right, let's go with our larger bristle brush. Get it wet, damp it off a little bit. Now what we're going to do is we're going to block in our water. And here's where there's going to be the waterfall, and then it's just going to kind of come out. So this is going to be a combination of some white and some blue. And again, you see, just double loaded. I didn't even blend it on my palette. That actually is not a bad color. Notice the brush strokes. See, there's some dark spots, some lighter spots. There's brush strokes that go this way. There's brush strokes that go that way. That's all perfectly fine. That's a very good thing. I'm just kind of scooting this in and around the shoreline just to kind of cover up the canvas. Again, with some white, some blue, maybe some more. See, that time I grab some more blue. And remember, almost every painting in the world, and it doesn't matter the subject you're painting, starts out like this. It's very, very loose underpainting strokes. And where it ends up is how detailed that artist wants to get. Impressionists really don't go much further than this. They leave a lot to the imagination. I'm probably, if you take abstract art being maybe at one end of the scale, and you take photorealism, which is almost to the point that you're looking at a painting, but you almost swear that it's a photograph because it's just every little detail, and it takes people months to paint those things. But if you look at that as being the opposite end of the scale, I'm probably more to the realistic side of center. I like Impressionism. But I tend to finish off a little bit, but I'm nowhere near photorealism. I kind of like having it where the viewer can kind of determine what they're looking at. In fact, it's funny. I've shared this story with some workshops and classes before, and it's a true story. I was in a workshop over in Saugatuck, which is over on Lake Michigan. And I was there for 2 days, and we were painting outdoors. And one of the ladies that was in the class, we painted on her property. And she had this gorgeous old Victorian-style home. It had really nice grounds on it, a lot of trees, had a nice garden. It backed up to a golf course. Then, of course, across the street is Lake Michigan. So she had some property that went down the hill and down to the beach, and they had a deck and things down there. But what we could do is we could go anywhere on her property that we wanted to and go paint whatever scene we wanted to do. So some people were painting her home. Some people were focused on painting the garden area. I naturally migrated out to the golf course and was dodging golf balls while I was trying to paint. But the second day, and I really wanted to go down on the beach. So the second day I went down there, and it was really not the best day at all. very, very windy, very difficult to paint, especially with acrylics, because they tend to dry out, especially when there's a big wind. And I was doing this beach scene, and I had the water coming in from the left, and it was coming up on the beach, and I was showing some of the dune grass, which I called weeds at the time, but then was corrected that that's really dune grass. So I was painting dune grass, and I had there were some like sand dunes way in the background in the distance, and it was really hot, really windy, but I was having a good time. And the artist came around, was checking on everybody's progress, and he said, what would really look good is down there on the beach far away would be a nice place to put some people, and that would kind of bring some life and some activity to your painting. And I said, well, I really am not a people kind of an artist. He says, well, if you just suggest it, just kind of put shapes out there, some of the colors that would be skin tone, just suggest that they're out there, and then people looking at it will just assume that they're people. So I said, all right. So I get out my little liner brush, and I mix up a tone color, and out in the water, I started putting in a shape of a boy. And I had his arms up because that's just how they ended, and I had him stopped here so it looked like he was staying in the water. Well, so I had a boy there with his arms up. So I'm like, okay, what am I going to do with that? So I said, well, I had another boy. So I put one on the opposite side, and I did it from his waist up, and his arms were up. And I'm like, okay, what are they doing now? And I accidentally dropped my brush, and it ended up, I made a little ball out of it. I mean, it just happened to work out good. So then I was thinking about my family because I have 2 boys, and they're out in the water playing catch with the ball. So I thought, well, I should paint my wife in there. So again, this is far, far away. So I paint her in there, and I put some longer hair so you can kind of see it's woman. I put a bikini on her. And at the end of our workshop, every day we always had to go back as a group, and we had to go through and critique our work, which was always the nerve-wracking part of that because everybody would make suggestions and what you could have done better, what you did great, what whatever. So it came to mind, and the artist held it up and says, who did this one? And I raised my hand, and all of a sudden a lady, and there's like about 12 of us, a lady goes, oh my gosh, look how he painted that woman on the beach bending over to pick up a picnic basket. And I looked at that painting and like, what in the world is she looking at? And pretty soon another person goes, that is a picnic basket that lady's picking up. And I still to this day don't understand how they look at that, but a number of people saw that. And I certainly didn't paint that. I was even fortunate to get anything that looked like a human being, let alone a lady with a picnic basket. But that's just an example of how people will look at your painting and always see things in it differently than that you did. But that's kind of the fun of it. I always share that story with everybody because we start talking about not putting in a lot of detail on things, and that's just one of those examples where you don't have to put everything in it, and just that's kind of the fun part is let the viewer who's looking at it really kind of finish that off and let them interpret that how they want to interpret it. But that's a true story. It still kind of baffles me even today. I don't know if where they were painting they were drinking or something. I'm not quite sure, but alrighty. I think what we're going to do next is we're going to start highlighting some of these bushes that we put in. And to do that, we're going to use our medium flat bristle brush, and we're going to get some green and a little bit of yellow. And this can be like a medium green. We don't want to get it bright yet. And how you do this is you mix up your color, and you hold your brush straight up, and then you push down. That really opens those bristles up and allows paint to get inside there. And then you'll notice that, see how it's all full of paint, and you want that fullness of that brush because that's how we're going to create the bushes. Now the light is going to come in from the right hand side, so all of our lights are going to hit on the right hand side of objects that you're going to do. Now how you do this, if you think about putting it in, and again, less is more. I'm going to have to get an apron that says less is more. And if you think about putting in bushes in clumps, so you want to leave some dark undercolor. So for example, we'll start right here. So I'm just tapping. I'm going to get this a little bit brighter so you can see this better. Loading it the same way. So it's just directly going in and tapping and leaving some dark show through and then moving to a different area. And then maybe coming in here. and stop it. Coming over in here. But kind of roll your brush as you're doing it. You kind of almost make like an umbrella shape because that's what kind of forms the clump. But these dark spots are so important. Okay, that's going to be right down by where the ridge is, so we're just going to continue on with this. And you can do it very light so you can get some very, very subtle ones. And you can do you push a little harder to get the darker, or the ones that are a little bolder. But the thing is, you've got to skip around and leave these in, because if you just make it one great big green blob, it's just not going to look right. And it's tough because you start doing this and it starts feeling pretty good and you start building up some confidence, and pretty soon you can't stop yourself. I've done that hundreds and hundreds of times. But you gotta kind of develop a discipline to know when to stop. And just kind of trust it that, less is more. And that the less I put on, the better it's going to look. Even though this is feeling really good and I'm feeling confident with what I'm doing and I like what I'm seeing, you just got to know when to pull the plug on something and say, I should probably stop here. And we just continue to form this. And what we're going to do is we're going to go that all the way across, and we're even going to bring that down right into here too. But see how gorgeous that looks? See all the darks? You see some subtle greens, you see some brighter greens, you see some dark spots. Just like you can just get inside of that bush. And that's how they really look anyways. So you can see how I'm kind of going back and forth, forming those little clumps. Well, I'm hearing that music. It's time to stop. Next week, we're going to pick back up on this, continuing to highlight those. Then we'll kind of work our way forward, start throwing in some rocks. Thank you very much for watching today. Make sure you visit my website. Come by our studio, kind of check us out. Send us some emails, cards, letters. We appreciate it. Have a great day.